Level 1. It's all just a Dungeons & Dragons campaign. This theory proposes that the entirety of Stranger Things, including 11 psychic abilities, the Upside Down, and the various monsters, exists solely within the imagination of the children playing Dungeons & Dragons. The show frequently references D&D as a central element of its mythology, from early episodes where the boys use the game to make sense of supernatural events, to naming the monsters, Demogorgon and Mind Flayer, directly from their campaigns. Remember the terrifying days after Will disappeared in Season 1? The boys weren't just searching, they were desperately trying to label the unknown horror. When Eleven arrives, they have no language for her powers or the creature hunting them, until Mike holds up the D&D Monster Manual. He points to the Demogorgon, a dimension-hopping predator with 2 heads, capable of terrorizing realms. The boys didn't just name the monster, they used the game's lore to predict its behavior and devise a defense. The game became the children's only shared vocabulary for survival, proving that the fictional rules of the campaign were laid over the reality of Hawkins from the very beginning. According to the theory, the narrative of the series could be a framing device. The kids sit around a table, rolling dice, and imagining the horrors and challenges they narrate. The events of the series, including battles, kidnappings, and dimensional threats, would therefore be products of their imagination rather than external reality. If the theory is correct, Season 5 could end with the camera pulling back to show the children still at the game table, suggesting that everything the audience has witnessed was part of a collective, imaginative role-playing scenario. This interpretation also aligns with the recurring theme of children processing trauma and fear through imagination. Level 2, the November 6th anniversary trigger. This theory focuses on November 6, 1987, which is the 4th anniversary of when Will Byers vanished. The history of the Upside Down shows a bad, repeating pattern. The walls between dimensions get weak on important dates connected to painful memories. Dr. Owens has indicated that the gate between dimensions reopens around anniversaries of Will's disappearance, suggesting a repeating cycle of instability. You have seen this weakness exploited before. Think back to the opening of Season 2. It begins on October 28th, just before the first anniversary of Will's vanishing, a date that foreshadows a significant breach. The barriers were so thin then that a powerful piece of the Upside Down, the Shadow Monster, was able to latch directly onto Will, infecting him and using him as a spy. The theory also ties this date to Vecna's ritualized timeline, where victims experience 4 clock chimes before death, suggesting the number 4 is a sinister constant. Since the Upside Down froze on November 6, 1983, the subsequent anniversaries accumulate stress on this anchor point. Season 5 takes place during fall 1987, meaning the 4th anniversary coincides with the timeline of the story, creating a deadline scenario. The protagonists are forced to act before November 6th or risk a catastrophic interdimensional breach. This date functions both as a narrative ticking clock and as a natural weakness in the Upside Down structure, reinforcing the chilling sense that events are tied to cycles of supernatural vulnerability. Level 3, Will as the Mind Flayer's spy. Will Byers' history of possession by the Mind Flayer makes him uniquely vulnerable to psychic influence. In Season 2, Episode 6, The Spy, Will demonstrates a psychic connection to the Mind Flayer, experiencing its pain and awareness as it manipulates Hawkins' lab personnel. When he inadvertently leads soldiers into traps, it confirms that the Mind Flayer integrates him into its hive mind, treating him as an extension of itself. Think back to that horrific moment in Season 2. Will, under the insidious influence of the Mind Flayer, is unknowingly sketching maps of the tunnels beneath Hawkins, believing he's helping his rescuers. But the Mind Flayer is using him as a living sonar. When Dr. Owens sends a group of heavily armed soldiers into those tunnels to clear the vines, the creature simply waits. It didn't need to be there physically, it just used Will's fear as a channel. Will suddenly collapsed in a painful mental seizure just as the soldiers walked into a certain area. In a brutal surprise attack, a group of Demodogs immediately ripped the soldiers. Will wasn't just feeling the connection, he was forced to set up their deaths. This memory proves Vecna, who now controls the Mind Flayer system, could use Will's old link as a psychic spy. This would let Vecna get information, mess up the hero's plans, or make Will work for the Upside Down. Keeping Will safe is just as important as stopping Vecna, because he could be a weakness inside the group that ruins their efforts from within. This theory connects what we've seen in the show directly to what could happen in Season 5. Level 4. Time travel's coming. Some fans believe Stranger Things 5 is about to bend time itself, potentially altering past events and rewriting the history of Hawkins. The key piece of evidence? That haunting grandfather clock from Season 4. It wasn't just creepy decor, it was a ticking symbol of something much deeper. Vecna's curse, time collapsing, maybe even time travel itself. The theory hinges on a single shared historical moment, the catastrophic foundational days that birthed the Upside Down. Key events include the day Will went missing and the day the gate opened. Journey back to that first silent night of November 6, 1983, when Will Byers vanished. That wasn't just a boy disappearing, it was the moment the veil ripped between worlds. The same night the gate was torn open, a wound that never truly healed. These two linked days, a single, terrifying 24-hour period, are the original sin of Hawkins. If the theory is right, the clock isn't just counting down to an ending, it's counting back to that beginning, a chance to erase the entire catastrophe. The theory suggests that the past may be revisited. But how could they possibly achieve this? The answer lies in the shocking evolution of their champion, Eleven. Eleven's powers could evolve beyond telekinesis, potentially allowing her to manipulate time. To believe she can manipulate time, you have to look back at every time she broke the rules of her own power. She started with a simple telekinetic push. Then came the remote sensing of the void. By Season 4, she had learned to reconstitute memory, literally reaching into the past to mend the pieces of her fractured mind and restore her strength. The ability to manipulate the present by restoring memory is the dramatic precursor. The next logical step, the final evolutionary stage, is manipulating the past itself. The implications of this power are massive. Maybe they'll travel back to stop Henry Creel before he becomes Vecna, or maybe they'll revisit the Hawkins Lab massacre. Picture the ultimate scene. Eleven doesn't just need to stop a monster, she has to travel back to the sterile, terrifying halls of the Hawkins Lab and face Henry Creel, the boy, before he ever becomes Vecna. She would have to decide, do they stop the massacre, preventing the birth of their enemy? Or do they save Henry, offering him the forgiveness no one else did, and thereby risking the timeline collapsing completely? The past is not a safe memory, it is a live bomb they must defuse. There's poetic full-circle logic here. To save Hawkins in the present, they may have to dive into its haunted past. Level 5. The bicycle light theory. Bicycles have long symbolized freedom, movement, and survival within Stranger Things, and the presence or absence of lights serves as a compelling visual metaphor. Characters with illuminated bike paths, such as Dustin and Will, are suggested to survive or avoid fatal outcomes, while those riding in darkness, like Mike and Lucas in some promo materials, are implied to face danger. Consider the tragic, high-stakes end of Eddie Munson in the Season 4 finale. His mission is to lure the Demobats away from Vecna's house. As he speeds off on his customized bicycle into the perpetual twilight of the Upside Down, his solitary headlight cuts through the gloom, a desperate flicker of hope, but one that is clearly defined and isolated. For a few agonizing moments, that light symbolizes his freedom and a path to survival. But then, in a devastating moment of heroic choice, he realizes running isn't enough. He decides to stop, jump off the bike, and face the Demobats head-on, effectively extinguishing his path of escape. The light goes out, literally or symbolically, the moment he makes the choice to sacrifice himself. This isn't coincidence, it's the creators using a subtle, gut-punching visual language to signal that his story and his chance at returning home has ended. This theory extends beyond simple symbolism, positing that creators deliberately use bike lights as a visual countdown or predictive device, guiding attentive viewers in interpreting character fates. Level 6. Max's Coma. Max's coma represents a psychic entrapment within Vecna's mental network rather than a simple physical pause. Her body is alive, but her consciousness is trapped in a separate mental plane directly linked to Vecna. This isn't a medical tragedy, it's a psychological battlefield. Vecna believed he had crushed Max completely, leaving her body broken and her mind empty. But her consciousness did not simply vanish. It was drawn into his network, a dark trophy he didn't realize was still connected. Max is now a living conduit. You see, Eleven's most terrifying power is the ability to walk inside the minds of others. The theory suggests that Eleven doesn't need to hunt for Vecna in the physical world. She can simply use Max's lingering psychic link, that terrible tether Vecna left behind, to slip into his mental lair undetected. Max's broken mind becomes the ultimate Trojan horse, allowing Eleven to map the depths of Vecna's defenses and find the one flaw in his terrifying psychic armor. This scenario establishes a dual-front conflict. Hawkins experiences physical destruction, while Eleven undertakes a psychic offensive within Max's mind. Max's comatose state is therefore not passive. It functions as a strategic asset, enabling the protagonists to exploit a hidden weakness in Vecna's system. Max's consciousness effectively acts as a backdoor into the enemy's network, providing critical insight for the final confrontation. Level 7. Vecna, or Eleven, is Henry Creel's creation. This theory examines Eleven's genetic origin, proposing she may be derived from Henry Creel. Terry Ives, Eleven's mother, was part of Dr. Brenner's MKUltra experiments. To fully grasp the depravity of this theory, you must picture the world Dr. Martin Brenner, or Papa, was building at Hawkins' lab. This was not a purely scientific research facility, it was a ruthless, secret government initiative founded on the real-world MKUltra experiments. The goal was never just to study psychics, but to meticulously manufacture a superweapon to use against the Soviets, a psychic spy who could remotely assassinate. Brenner discovered Henry Creel, Subject 001, and saw the blueprint for this weapon. After Henry's rampage and banishment, Brenner's obsession didn't stop, it intensified. The experiments on Terry Ives and the other children were not about finding volunteers, they were about finding a vessel, a way to duplicate Henry's unique genetic blueprint. This was Brenner's terrifying, methodical effort to create a controlled version of his first, greatest mistake. The theory posits that Brenner artificially inseminated Terry with DNA from Henry Creel, creating Eleven as a deliberately engineered psychic. This explains Eleven's exceptional abilities, her psychic resemblance to Henry, and her narrative connection to Vecna. The familial link would contextualize the emotional and psychic resonance between Eleven and Vecna, potentially culminating in a revelation of direct parentage. Such a twist would retroactively explain Eleven's extraordinary powers, her resistance to manipulation, and the depth of Vecna's obsession with her. That's all for now. If these theories blew your mind even a little, make sure to like the video and subscribe for more breakdowns. Catch you later.